Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's Board of Education meeting. Our meeting was called to order during the closed executive session, so we can begin the public portion. I would like to kick things off on behalf of the Board of Education by recognizing the hard work of the School Start Time Exploration Committee. Over the course of 6 months, 20 community stakeholders, including students, parents, administrators, and members of the board, researched, analyzed, and evaluated potential shifts in school start times. Their goal was to better understand the impact on family schedules, grade levels, childcare, extracurricular activities, transportation, and budget, among several other considerations. This was no easy task. The committee accomplished their goal, and their recommendations were presented to the board on November 13, 2023. After careful consideration of the research and recommendations provided, the board has decided at this time not to pursue a shift in school start times. Given the anticipated residential growth in West Windsor and Plainsboro, the possible start time legislation, and potential financial impacts, it is the board's position that a shift in school start times would have a significant impact on the district's ability to maintain the many outstanding programs and services currently offered to our students. The board thanks the members of the School Start Time Exploration Committee for your time, thorough research, and insightful feedback. Your commitment to analyzing the feasibility of new start times is truly admirable, and your diverse perspectives are highly valued. The committee's recommendations will serve as a pivotal starting point should the district decide to re-examine school start times in the future. So now I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Adderhold for any comments.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being in attendance. Just want to provide one update and one comment for the community. As many know, and we communicated this out back in the fall, the Board of Education and the administration moved forward with the acquisition of a new property located at 221, 223 Southfield Road. Just this past week on Tuesday, Dr. Russo and myself attended the closing of that property, and we're pleased to have just acquired just under 28 acres of farmland. It's actually was a tree farm. So we now are in possession of some property that we will look to future growth. It will at this time be evaluated for a potential school site, and it's many years in the making. But as I have shared with some of the members of the board and some members of the public, when we think about the current referendum and the work that's being completed now in 2024, that work began with the first presentations to the Board of Education in 2015. So the idea of developing a plan, developing the financial structure of how you're going to pursue it, going out to a referendum, going out to bid, architectural drawings, feedback from staff, feedback from community members, developing the community's willingness to support such a referendum, and then ultimately building something takes years. So this is nothing that is going to be developed immediately, but it's work that we have to think about long-term planning at this time. And so that I did want to just notify the community that purchase has gone through. There was quite the process to go through the Department of Education to get all the approvals recommended. We're very appreciative to the Prine family and their partnership with the district. The conversations with the Prines first started in 2018, 2019, and now years later we've acquired the property. So a thanks to both Bob Prine and Muriel Hibbs. Also want to just mention that this is National School Counselor Week, and we'd be remiss if we didn't just pause to acknowledge the many counselors throughout our school community, whether they are school-based counselors or UBHC clinicians or our SAC counselors. Our counselors are a tremendous resource to our students, to our families, and we thank them for their dedicated service. And again, just want to recognize that this week, February 5th through February 9th, is National School Counselor Week. All right, thank you. Have a great evening.
All right, thank you, Dr. Adderhold. And now I would like to invite our student representatives to give us a report on high school.
Good evening. So starting off strong on January 11th, High School North students participated in their second year of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Day, which is a workshop-based educational program focusing on issues related to diversity and belonging. There were performances of student music groups as well as positive message booths with over 38 sessions that ranged from disability awareness to cultural dance and discussion on advocacy. We're grateful that so many of our staff members, community organizations, and guests were part of DEI Day, and we're very proud that most of our students participated in it, including some students holding their own student-led presentations. The positive response from student and staff have been inspiring, and we look forward to holding another DEI Day next year. Secondly, High School North held its second annual prom shop on January 13th right here in the central office. It was a huge success with many students and families coming out and borrowing prom dresses and suits to wear. Speaking of prom, junior prom tickets are now for sale. Each ticket is $95 and J-Prom itself will be on April 19th. Additionally, marking period 2 is officially over. Grades for this marking period were due yesterday, which means we have begun the second semester of the school year. As marking period 3 starts, all grades except seniors are now undergoing their scheduling with counselors. And we look forward to seeing all the classes that our students will take. Disney is officially 1 month away. Starting on March 1st is the parent informational meeting, which was 2 weeks ago, and next week students will have an informational meeting to discuss rules for Disney travel. The musical is in 3 weeks. This year's High School North is hosting a Mean Girls musical, and we're very excited to see what our theater department brings. For high school juniors, Washington Seminar will be taking place at the end of this month from February 27th and onwards. High School North's Freshman Student Council hosted their first solo event, Family Feud. It was a huge success with the council planning to do more similar events in the future. Additionally, during this week, the Senior Council is selling roses for Valentine. These roses will be handed out on Valentine's Day to a special someone or a friend or two. High School North and South's Chinese Club will be hosting a combined event, China Night, at High School South on February 23rd. At this event, there will be Chinese cultural hip-hop dances, booths, and food. All of this helps our community embrace and learn more about Chinese culture. High School North's Model UN Club attended the Ivy League Model United Nations Conference this past week, from January 25th to January 28th, with over half of our delegates winning awards. High School North seniors competed in a very anticipated events. Many seniors had the opportunity to compete in the annual swing dance competition, with the rest of the grades spectating. The cheerleading team wrapped up their very successful Pie a Teacher competition in order to raise funds to go to nationals. Reigning champ history teacher Mr. Romero won for the 5th time again, completing his win streak and keeping his dominance in our school. Thank you, and I'll pass the mic to Sal.
Okay, now for some South news. So a lot has been happening with South, especially with our music program. So all our ensembles, orchestra and band combined, have had festivals with the Grover Middle School. So especially notable was our performance by South senior soloist Advait Gupta playing Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 2, I believe. There's also been notable occurrences with our winter sports. Our basketball team has held a teacher appreciation night, and we're heading into postseason for our winter sports which means a lot of senior nights are being held and spring sport tryouts are underway. Beyond that, we've also held a Mehendi night, which had really great attendance. And our junior class just organized our Illuminations talent show, in which South students performed acts ranging from rapping and dancing to singing, and even one ventriloquy act. A lot of yearbook photos have also been being submitted and been coming out, including I think, a recently due baby photo submission. So I'm excited to see how that turns out. And quite a few college decisions, especially from early public school applications, have been coming out as well. So a lot of my friends have received good news. So with Valentine's Day coming up, our Echoes Club is, like North Student Council, selling flowers. We're selling carnations, so red for romantic intentions and then white for friendship. And they're also selling a cappella performances, so that will be interesting to see. And our peer leaders are hanging up hearts for every student around South in order for every student to be able to see their name up on a wall. We're also heading into a busy scheduling season for everybody. So, yeah. And as with both the North and South Chinese clubs are planning China Night on February 23rd. And South's musical is also coming up within the next 3 weeks from February 29th to March 2nd. And we'll be performing a chorus line. We're already well into rehearsals, and ticket sales will be around that time as well. Also, for Black History Month, we've been having African American poetry read alouds in the media center. So, yeah.
Okay, wow. Thank you, Johnson and Eliana. Very, very busy. Had the pleasure of actually being at the choral and the orchestra festival. Blown away. Amazing. Thank you guys for the report. We always love hearing about stuff at high school. And now we will move on to the first opportunity for public comments. The board. Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, we do have a presentation. Thanks for the reminder. Oh, I totally skipped that. And now I would like to introduce Dr. Chris Russo for the 2024-2025 budget presentation discussion, which we are all looking forward to.
Okay. Wow. So that's actually a tough act to follow, because this ends up being the nuts and bolts, but it's good to hear that, because that's why we do what we do on this side. So it's fitting that I do follow that. Excuse me. So everything we do during the budget cycle, and the budget cycle literally starts the week or two after the prior year's budget is approved. So the end of April, beginning of May, we'll start having some somewhat serious discussions on what the 25-26 budget looks like. So it's an annual recurring event. So we start with the mission statement. Everyone has read that many times, and you've had it, and I've done the same to you. So it won't kill you to death by PowerPoint. So then we also, everything falls within the strategic goals, and you've seen at our various meetings where we've had deep discussion with the goals and how they tie to the budget, and what future programs or current programs are, and what we want to do, and how they tie into the budget, into the strategic goals. So you see them as well. So what is the proposed budget? What is a budget? It's a planning tool. It has to consider risk and contingencies. It has to be fiscally responsible, and it definitely reflects our values, and it must consider safeguards and buffers. Because the budget that we started, working on months ago essentially starts 24 months out. The budget we get serious about in January doesn't start till 18 months out. So, we have to consider safeguards and buffers as we go forward. So, to hit some of the stressors on the budget right off the top. Special services, we have tuition increases. We have additional students, which require additional staffing. We have facilities, we have custodial contract renewals. We have healthcare costs, not only with increased usage, we're self-funded, so we pay our claims. We have increased usage, but we have inflation in that category, where if something called cost X a year ago, it's X times 8% now. And then we have New Jersey Educator Healthcare Plan and Garden State Healthcare Plan, in which we're siphoning off revenues that could come back to the district that offset the cost of healthcare. They're going into, employees are going into the other programs where the district doesn't see that money, however, it costs us the same cost for healthcare. Staffing needs, as I mentioned, special education and English language learners. Transportation and cost of route renewals, CPI, Consumer Price Index, you'll see later, that's over 8%. Driver shortages and fuel increases. The number one needed job in this country is CDL drivers. It requires a CDL to drive a bus. And we all know what we're paying at the gas pumps if you still drive a carbon car, combustion engine, internal combustion engine. Facilities and capital projects. As you know, we try to maintain our facilities, and obviously there are always projects needed every year and every summer. And salary increases, we have our agreements in place, and we're moving forward. Obviously, we have to fund them. Budget considerations. Again, as I mentioned, we have an additional English language learner teacher, and we have additional special education teachers as proposed at this time in this budget. New salary guides are in place. Increased stipend for extracurricular activities and athletics. Due to the contract negotiations, some of them were actually brought up to a more current salary structure. They had not been touched in years. They've been brought up, plus we have additional stipends in place that we've put out for additional programs for the students. Summer curriculum writing for elementary language arts and math. We have new standards at the state level, so we have to rewrite our curriculum or bring it up to the latest standards as recently provided to us. Healthcare. It's our third year of being self-insured. Overall, I believe the program has done well for us. We do see increases, but we see inflationary increases, as everyone does, but we don't see massive increases that typical school districts do on their total premium pay. We see increases on a small administrative cost, relatively small compared to the overall cost of insurance each year, which that number is still significant for a normal household, meaning when we talk numbers, compared to a $30 million health plan that we have. Use rates have been significantly increasing, and along with inflation, so our renewal for our anticipated cost is 11.6%. Route renewals, that's our student transportation. CPI increase of more than 8%. We're looking at 8.6%. That's a self-calculated number amongst a bunch of districts. The state has not released it yet. They could always finagle that number, but using their formula, we should be at 8.6%. That number is huge. Our transportation line in the last 5 years has gone from around $10 million to almost $19 million in that time. And it's because of additional routes, driver shortages, fuel prices, and obviously there's insurance increases on the programs, on transportation, because buses have catalytic converters, and quite a few catalytic converters get stolen. Knock on wood. We're not there yet. We haven't had that happen here yet. But I need to actually push a button. Insurance, increase in insurance renewal. We have COVID. I'm president of the New Jersey Schools Insurance Group, so I get to see the various claims and have the discussions in executive session. We're getting hit with COVID claims now. Natural disasters, we all know of them. Fires in Hawaii, floods and hurricanes in Florida and all along the Jersey coast. So there's because of inflation in the general economy, there are so many lawsuits regarding replacement cost of houses and buildings. If a square foot per home cost was $200 several years ago, it's now $400. Homes aren't covered for that at this time, so there's a lot of lawsuits. So insurance companies are dealing with those lawsuits. And we have theft, as I mentioned, with catalytic converters and just damage overall. And then we all read every day about cybersecurity. ABM Buildings and Grounds, it's year 5 of 5. Now, this, over the cost of the last 5 years, realized it has increased this contract quite a bit, and it has because we already had a pre-negotiated renewal rate, but realized we've added significant square footage, several hundred thousand additional square footage to our footprint, so obviously there's been additional charges for that. Nothing extraordinary this year with ABM. However, when we look at, I was going to say a longitudinal look, you'll actually see that number's gone up significantly over the 5 years. ROD grant, well, capital projects. We have the town center roof ROD grant. We did not receive a ROD grant in round one. We're still in round one, but we're hoping districts out there that cannot actually enter into their contracts for ROD as regular operating districts, hopefully their money will shake free and then we'll be offered a percentage of our project. It's up to 40% of what that project would cost. High School North Theater lighting, replacement of controls and fixtures, we're looking at that for, possibly doing that. We're looking at the costs. It may not be something we can just pay out of the general fund. We may have to come up with a smaller program of just doing some circuits to bring that up to speed just for this first year. That's a long-term program that we need to look at, but we might be able to take step one, maybe. And you'll see why when I get to the last slide. High School North tennis courts, repair, replace. We're down one court right now. We do have pricing on that. We're going to continue reviewing that project. High School North bleachers, that's an iffy proposal right now. We have them. They are working. They've been repaired, but we are looking at perhaps replacing them over the next couple of years. I'm bringing these up because if we do find room to get them in this budget, I don't want them to be a surprise to anyone, if that makes sense. The exciting news, woohoo! Start of a new energy savings improvement project. We're meeting with Schneider Electric in the coming days to actually get the audit going. It's just picking up from where they left off on the first ESIP. The program, as we're looking at budget numbers, the program is working with containing our energy costs. And, we have lighting, we have new HVAC because of this program. So it is working, and we're looking to enter into a second. And we'll see how that goes. And that will include additional solar, and, we'll be bringing proposals back for maybe carport solar panels, those sort of additions for additional solar program. Unknown budget contributors. What this means is, during the course of the year, what do we know we're going to get hit with that we don't know what we're going to get hit with? Well, we know prescription increases increase mid-year, December. Healthcare benefits will increase mid-year. And we still have staffing challenges due to statewide shortages. So we don't know how many 6 periods we'll have to pay. We don't know how many, staff members we'll have to bring in, et cetera, for various reasons. All right. Revenues. 2% of the general fund tax levy increase is $3.6 million. That's in statute. And statute also is the spending growth limitation adjustment. So a school district's required to stay at 2% of its prior year general fund tax levy unless it can generate school spending growth limitation adjustments, and you do that through an increase in healthcare costs and an increase in number of students, 10% in one given year. Well, that's going to be very hard. That, we would need 1,000 students to enter the district, so we don't have any student spending growth limitation adjustments, but we do for healthcare. We generated $2.1 million or so in health care adjustment, spending growth limitation adjustment last year. We spent a third of that. We were looking to spend a third, and a third. And what I mean by spend, we were looking to use that authority. However, as this budget's moving on, we may recommend that we use the remaining authority of $1.4 million. So we may have to use that as we go forward. You may see that from us in future discussions. Enrollment adjustment, as I mentioned, none. Banked cap from this year's. When I say this year, you realize I'm talking 24, 25. As we do the calculations, we see that we can generate another 1.25 in spending growth limitation adjustment, which is additional asking authority for additional tax levy. So We have not calculated our capital reserve allocation to go to capital projects, which, again, that's separate of this. That does not impact taxes. And state aid increase, we're anticipating $500,000 because we know that we should be at 100% of formula. The governor has stated that as well this year, and that's what we're basically owed, is $500,000. We've been shorted each year, the last several years. What we've been shorted has been made up to us, according to the SFRA of 2008. I'll stop there. All right, increases. We're looking at possible health increase of $1.9 million, what we're anticipating. Salary increases of $3.5 million. So you realize on the last slide, I said 2% of the tax levy is $3.6 million. We're well above that $3.6 million in the first two lines. Transportation increase, again, fixed costs, 1.27 million, 1.27 is what we anticipated, in millions of an increase at 8.6% CPI. Buildings and grounds, increase to 277,000. Technology, 100K. Insurance, $290,000. ABM, which is our custodial services, a $210,000 increase. Special education, $780K. In capital projects, even though it won't hit the taxes, that's to be determined. So when you look at those first three lines, and we can only increase taxes by 2% or $3.6 million, you see where we're heading with this presentation. So here's just putting the numbers in place and actually calculating some of the major categories. I won't read them to you again, but when you add those up, it's $8.3 million in increases. This is what we've added in for appropriations next year. We have the software. This is in the state software. We will receive the revenue side of the state software at the end of February when we get our state aid notices. So that's why this is kind of a two-piece project. We move together separately. So we see what our anticipated appropriation increase. Now, this is pretty much where we are with the revenues. We know 2% on our tax levy is $3.6 million. We know we can use 1.487 of our banked cap, which is the SGLA for healthcare from last year. That would be our tax levy would be increase would be $5.1 million. State aid increase is a projection at $500,000. You see that total and you see the revenue shortfall right now. This number, as we work and dig into it, is not coming down. The number is actually going the other way as we sharpen each number. But we submit a budget on March 19th is when we'll vote on it to submit it by March 20th. So we have another 6 weeks that we will be working on this, and we'll be looking at it. So I don't have good news, but I do have news. So again, nothing's in stone right now. This is something that we meet several days a week to go over what's the latest, where are we, have we thought of this, have we cut that, have we done this, and we've been looking at efficiencies, and we've been finding efficiencies. That's what I pride myself on the operations side. But you see, with inflation and in the economy, the fixed costs are getting to us this year. It's a perfect storm. Everything's coming together in 1 year, is what we're looking at. Any questions?
Go ahead, Dana.
Nope. It's a different mic than I usually have. Usually it's on all the time. Anyway, so the, no pun intended, the million plus question is how are we going to cover this anticipated shortfall?
Well, we're looking, and so I can say each year, it's kind of been like I've been up here and I've been $1 million. I've been a little over $1 million away. We've been there, and I'm kind of in the back of my mind going, well, we can do this or we can do that, and we'll get there. I'm not doing that this year. So no, we're going to continue to look, where there's any couch cushion available. we'll have some serious discussions between now and then before we present again on how this number tightens up. So, I mean, I can't just, I don't want to say something not flippantly, but half prepared and then have to go back on it. So that's why, but we are looking at, we've got 7 or 8 different places to look.
Oh, so when is the next budget presentation in this forum?
This forum.
So we'll have the February 20th board meeting, we'll have the audit presentation. And then the March meeting will be an opportunity for the tentative budget to be presented for submission to the county's superintendent, which requires the board vote for that submission. In the interim, they'll have the opportunity for the board to come together. We'll also have the opportunity for the finance committee to meet twice. So there will be opportunities for this board to have conversations between now and the March meeting. As Chris said, it is the ugliest budget we've seen in a long time, and we've seen probably since 10-11, and that's the year we lost 7.7 million in state aid. The 11-12, excuse me. When we look at this year's budget and you look at just some of your major drivers, your special education costs going up just under $1 million, your healthcare increase going up over 11%, your transportation costs calculated by state formula at we anticipated being over 8%. Why can we anticipate that? It's formulary driven, and the formula is a look back formula. So it looks back over a 24-month period. You go back 6 months to June 30th, and then from that point you go back 18 months. So you look back months 1 through 18, and then you don't look at 19 through 24. So it's over a 2-year period. And then you look at what was inflation for the consumer price index for the transportationary formula between Philadelphia and New York, averaged over that time period. And when our state puts that number out, that becomes the renewal rate. They usually put that out by the end of January, and it has not been released yet. That's a state-generated number, and then the transportation providers get to decide whether they accept that or whether they force you to go back out to bid. To give an example of where we are with transportation, at this point in the year, our athletic bus runs are in the red, and we're in the winter season. We have never been in the red in the winter season, right? And that's just because the exorbitant cost of additional routes, end of day and weekend routes, are facing all school districts. And when I say we're in the red, we increased an increase in budget over the last year. So that's how much that they're increasing for the athletic runs and for field trips. Trips that used to cost us $4,000 or $5,000 for outdoor ed, we got a quote for $12,000 for outdoor ed for the same exact trip of 5 years ago. So these transportation contractors have just exorbitantly jacked up the prices in the route cost. Now, some of that's because buses moved out of the state. Some bus companies moved out of the state, creating a bus shortage. It's hard to get drivers based on some of the requirements in New Jersey to get your CDL. And then gas prices went up. But now, if you're a transportation company, the formula works in your favor, right? Because prices have come down at the pump, but you're getting the higher renewal rate. So they're making big profits off of school districts, but we can't do anything about the formula. That's a legislative formula. Salaries are up, and rightly so, and their negotiation rates across, have gone up, and our contractual costs for salary increases are around 3.5%, 3.4%. But our 2% is our budget cap. So to Chris's point, like every single area that we spend is getting hit at higher than we're allowed to raise. And that's the challenge of this year's budget. So we'll continue to look. The challenge is that the vast majority of the budget is people. And I don't see many efficiencies or reductions when you talk about people, because that means changing programs for kids. And I don't see making a recommendation to reduce course offerings or to increase class sizes. So we are going to continue to have to look at savings in areas where we can try to find efficiencies, but quite frankly, we've gone there. We went to self-funding for healthcare. We renewed our insurance rates. We changed providers. We've found those efficiencies in prior year budgets. So there's not many wells to go to. It's pulling this small amount back from an energy line or pull this amount from, and shifting pots to cover areas of growth. And that's how we're trying to look at it. But the budget, no matter what, gets tighter each year. And while that's a challenge, I just always want us to remember there's 100 districts that for 5 years have been cut each year in state aid. And so they've had inflationary cost and loss of state aid. We have seen an increase of state aid. So yes, we're challenged by this, but I have colleagues that are cutting 6 million, not 2 million, right? So I do want to try to big picture stay in perspective that there's other places far more challenging. Now, my responsibility is to this community. While I advocate out there for all, we have to think also about the students and the staff here in WWP. So it's a challenging mix for districts. And, while members of the legislature are kind in reminding us that we should think about increasing salaries or we should, increase these services, there's no appetite to change the formula and to increase the ability for us to raise additional revenue. But that's code for the folks in the audience. Raising revenues means increasing taxes. So I'm also very mindful that, as I say, bring in additional monies, it means increasing taxes on the local taxpayers. So it's a very difficult balance when you look at all the programs.
Lloyd, did you have a comment or question?
Thank you, Dr. Adhold. I was just wondering about transportation, just sitting here, because you said almost 19 million increase over 5 years. It seems like a trend. If there was, I don't know, something, if we've been thinking something outside the box to deal with maybe transportation, but I guess we can have those discussions as we move on in the budget discussions. But
And quick answer to that is realize the pool of drivers isn't there. So us running a program or them running a program, it's not much there. We'll talk.
Are there any other questions or comments from the rest of the board? Okay, thank you, Dr. Russo. We appreciate your transparency and clear presentation, and Dr. Adderhold for your additional insights. We could still have some laughs, though. Yeah. Yes, you have a very big job ahead of you. And we'll now move to first opportunity for public comments. The board invites thoughts and reactions on agenda items and items of concern from members of our community who are present. Each participant is asked to give his or her name and address prior to making a statement, which will be limited to 3 minutes in accordance with Board Policy 0167. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. This public comment period shall be limited to 60 minutes. Do we have any public comments?
Good evening. Good evening. Ann Clifton, 18 Galston Drive. I'm representing the West Windsor Bicycle and Pedestrian Alliance. It's an all-volunteer nonprofit organization that works to make West Windsor and our surrounding communities more safe for bicyclists and pedestrians of all ages. I was here at the December meeting to suggest that the district increase the amount of bicycle and pedestrian safety education offered in the schools. At the end of the meeting, Dr. McDonald was kind enough to introduce himself and express interest. So I'm back with another suggestion, actually as a follow-up to an email I sent earlier last week. So we would recommend that the district take advantage or make use of programs offered by the Greater Mercer Transportation Management Association, also acronym GMTMA. They have free, after all this budget news, they have free bicycle and pedestrian safety programming available for students in K to 2, 3 to 5, 6 to 8, and 9 to 12. Also appropriate for some of the new drivers as they get their driver's education class. We can help with logistics. They also have a bike rodeo, on-bike education that they offer for third graders. We, as WWBPA, acronym for West Windsor Bicycle and Pedestrian Alliance, we can help with logistics. So if anybody's rolling their eyes about bikes in the schools, but we could help with logistics. We also would welcome opportunity if we could help at Field Day or Record Breakers. We were at Move Like a Jag Day earlier in May at Grover Middle School. So we, like I said, all volunteer, all nonprofit, and we would welcome an opportunity to help increase the amount of safety, bike pedestrian safety in the schools, just to help kids learn how they can be safer. And maybe wouldn't it be great, especially with all this transportation news, wouldn't it be great if at some point we could get more kids biking and walking to school? So thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Clifton. Do we have any other public comments?
Hello, my name is Arjun Patel.
And I'm Anish Patel, and we live at 564 Village Road West.
So we are both juniors at High School North, and we are also brothers. We are part of the West Windsor Biker and Pedestrian Alliance. We were concerned with the lack of rectangular rapid flashing beacon and poor lighting conditions of the community middle school and High School North crosswalk. Due to the lack of lighting on many roads and intersections, many accidents have been caused, such as the recent tragic death of a 12-year-old CMS student crossing Rabbit Hill Road. This accident might have been prevented with better lighting. Nearly 3,000 students attend High School North and CMS, and aggressive drivers are on the road at school arrival and at dismissal times, as well as the following after-school activities. It is especially crucial to improve the lighting in this area.
Recently, we have sent out a petition to our students and adults of West Windsor and Plainsboro to get their opinion on whether we should improve the lighting. In just 5 days, we have got a total of 460 signatures on platforms like Google Forms and Change.org. One of the students' comments that stood out to us was that pedestrians can't get through the sidewalks because they had to deal with 3 directions of traffic at the same time. We would like you to consider adding better lighting conditions and RRFB to the side crosswalk between CMS and HSN, as it is a hazard for many students crossing. Thank you.
Thank you, Arjun and Anish. Do we have any other public comments this evening? Okay, and before I close, should I close it first? Okay. Seeing none, I will close this public comment portion and turn it over to Dr. Adderhold.
Well, thank you to Ms. Clifton for the offer. I just wanted to thank you for your comments, and I know the Bike Alliance has been in touch with the district and with Dr. McDonald's, and we'll be coming to I believe our May PTA leadership meeting, has been doing some presentations with some of our PTAs, and so we thank you for your support. And to Arjun and Anish, thank you for letting us know about the petition. And we are aware that I believe you've also been in touch with the district, with the PTA at North, with the township, and with the building administration. I believe you met with Mr. Thomas as well over there at North. Just for the public, the sidewalks and the roadway are governed under the municipality. So I have been in touch directly with the business administrator for Plainsboro, Mr. Cancro, and we've been in touch with the Chief Blanchard as well regarding the outreach. Dr. McDonald has directly worked with traffic officers in Plainsboro. You may have seen recently they put more cones out, some signage out, and they've had more of a presence like the beginning of the year. We have had outreach from 1 or 2 additional community members regarding the lighting outside, specifically those crosswalks. That was also forwarded to the business administrator over in Plainsboro. They have contacted from their communications to us, PSE&G, which may be as part of the solution, not suggesting it's the only solution. And then they're going to have to do some investigation based on feedback they get from their Plainsboro Police Traffic Division as well as PSE&G regarding if they choose to pursue additional lighting. We're happy to continue to interface with the township, but you're moving in the right direction. And I know Mr. Thomas was going to work to connect on some potential student opportunities to continue to raise awareness. Clearly the tragedy of the 12-year-old, but many may not realize that 2 years ago we lost a high school north student over the summer who was on a bicycle in a summer tragedy, a colleague to some of our students that are at North still. So we've had several losses in the community, crosswalk or bicycle related, that have hit really home in the North community, CMS community in particular. But within our school district community. So we appreciate student advocacy and clearly student voice gets some attention. So we'd encourage you to continue to advocate at the building, with the PTA, with the township, and to continue to raise that awareness. Dr. McDonald, is there anything I missed? Because I know you've had specific.
No, Dr. Heddle, I'll just echo the sentiment that we appreciate the advocacy. Nothing is more important than the safety and security of our students, and we will continue to have the conversations with the township about possible solutions to the challenges in front of High School North and CMS.
I think the one thing also just to note is there was a comment made about aggressive drivers. The aggressive drivers are often our own community. So we're talking about parent drop-off. We're talking about student drivers, and we are talking about an area that can serve as a community cut-through for folks going to Route 1 and, to cut through the community. So clearly that all hits around the same time, and constant education around safety is why organizations such as the Pedestrian and Bike Alliance are so important. So thank you for all of your advocacy, and I recommend we appreciate your continued advocacy on that.
All right, thank you. We don't have any Board of Education committee meeting reports since the committees haven't met since our last board meeting. So now we can move on to the voting portion of our meeting. For administration, can I have a motion for administration items 1 through 4 plus the pink addendum? Dana and Liz, any questions or comments?
Okay, we'll start with Ms. Bonsall.
Yes.
Ms. Cheniera.
Yes.
Yep. Ms. Ho.
Yes.
Ms. Krug.
Yes.
Ms. Maliga.
Yes.
Ms. Zovich. Ms. Juliana. And Ms. Buell.
Yes.
Did we?
Pardon?
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, okay.
Got everyone, yep.
Can I have a motion for curriculum and instruction item number 1 plus the light orange addendum? Lori and Rachel, any questions or comments?
Okay, we'll start with Ms. Cheniera.
Yes.
Ms. Ho.
Yes.
Ms. Krug.
Yes.
Ms. Maliga.
Yes.
Ms. Zovich. Ms. Juliana.
Yes.
Ms. Bonsall.
Yes.
Ms. McEwen.
Yes.
All right, motion passed.
Can I have a motion for finance items 1 through 9 plus the blue addendum? Louisa and Robin? Any questions or comments?
Okay, we'll start with Ms. Ho.
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Ho. Ms. Krug
Yes, except it's staying on 9B.
on 9B. Okay, Ms. Maliga.
Yes.
Ms. Shetty. Oh, Ms. Zovich.
Yes.
Ms. Juliana.
Yes.
Ms. Bonsall.
Yes.
Ms. Cheniera.
Yes.
Ms. McEwen.
Yes. And the next item on our agenda is personnel. So can I have a motion to approve personnel items, personnel item number 1 plus the green, the purple, and the yellow addendum? Pooja and Liz? Any questions or comments?
Okay, we'll start with Ms. Krug.
Yes.
Ms. Maliga.
Yes.
Ms. Zovich. Ms. Juliana.
Yes.
Ms. Bonsall.
Yes.
Ms. Cheniera.
Yes.
Ms. Ho.
Yes.
Ms. McEwen.
Yes. And before we move on, I would like to take a moment to recognize a few retirements we just voted on. The first is Hugh Green, math teacher at Grover, retiring after 26 years in the district. Then we have Leslie Kessler, technology teacher at Grover, retiring after 25 years in the district. Bill Totaro, a business education teacher at both high schools, retiring after 20 and a half years in the district. And Rose Leonard, language arts teacher at High School South, retiring after 33 years in the district. We'd like to thank you for your years of service to our district, and we all wish you the best of luck and enjoyment during your retirement. Next, we'll move on to the approval of the Board of Education minutes from January 23rd. Can I have a motion to approve the January 23rd minutes? Louisa and Robin, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any abstentions? Nope, okay. Any board liaison reports? Dana.
Thanks. As a liaison to the New Jersey School Board Association and the Mercer County School Board Association Vice President, I wanted to thank Dr. Russo for his presentation on school finance last Thursday night for the Mercer County School Board Association meeting. Meeting was attended by board members from 6 different counties, and we had tremendously positive feedback from the participants. So I want to thank you.
It was fun. It's a good group.
That's awesome. Do we have any other liaison reports? Laura, please.
Thank you, Graylin. So Liz and I are the liaisons for the district PTAs, and we just wanted to do an update on the PTA Reflections program. Reflections is a national PTA program for the arts, as many of you know. First, thank you to Angelina Lee, the Mercer County Reflections Chair, who's also a Dutch Neck parent, for the reflection work that they've done and also the updates. And also thank you to all the reflection chair people and committees for all your work on the school level, because we know it's a lot of work, from K through 12 in coordinating all the reflection projects for our students and having that opportunity for our students to take part in. We just want to acknowledge that WWP students at the county level, there were 36 WWP students who, out of 59, who were county winners. So they are now placed on top of their respective categories and will move on to the state level to compete on that stage. So please check with your respective PTAs for that list. But we just wanted to recognize those folks involved in the Reflections program. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Laura and Anna, for your reports. Any other liaison reports? Any new business? Okay, now on to the second opportunity for public comments. The board invites comments from members of our community who are present. Each participant is asked to give his or her name and address prior to making a statement, which will be limited to 3 minutes in accordance with Board Policy 0167. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. This public comment period shall be limited to 15 minutes. Do we have any comments this evening? Seeing none, we'll close the second opportunity for a public comment and move on to, can I have a motion to adjourn our meeting? Liz and Louisa. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Good night.